Thank you for joining us at Meet Magento New York 2018. This is Mage Mojo's second year hosting this event. I am Masha Naidu of Mage Mojo, and I am delighted to be at this, the 5th ever MMNY. Meet Magento is unique among industry events. It is organized not by Magento, but by the community, and everyone here is the community. MM18 NYC is one of the last Meet Magento events, assisted by the Meet Magento Association, as we await the arrival of the Magento Association. Thank you, MMA, for creating a space that allows us to connect, share, engage, improve, and have fun within the Magento ecosystem. This day would not be complete without a special mention of the contribution of Thomas Golitz, Ludia Shafranek, Anna Maria Muller, and Jan Monosov. Since 2010, the MMA has been uniting the Magento community across time zones, continents, and industries, bringing us together today at this global event. We welcome the Magento Association to continue the legacy started by the Meet Magento Association. Guided by Magento and you, the community, we look forward to building on this momentum. This event would not be possible without the support of our sponsors. Thank you to our headline sponsor, PayPal, who continues to support community events globally. Our platinum sponsors, Something Digital, Sovos, our numerous gold, silver, and contributing sponsors, and the assistance of Vertex, Human Element, Magento, and Cyberware. A special mention for the Magento team, who has supported and promoted this event. Thank you, Jenelise Quintana, Jennifer Garcia, Rachel Pfeffer, and their teams. The Mage Mojo team has created a special bond over the months of preparation for this very day. Thank you so much, Jordan Griffey, Eric Hellman, Martin Paschal, Adam Brown, Edward Vigil, and Albert Valdez. We hope you enjoy every moment of the day and a half of quality content, networking, and the after party prepared just for you. But first, Rob Long's panel, delivering exceptional e-commerce experiences. Thank you.
Nice work. Nice work. Did I get an oh boy from the audience? Perfect. That's fantastic. Thank you, Marcia, and thanks everybody for being here. What is it? It's almost after party time. But before we get to that, I have the distinct pleasure of being joined up here on stage with some fantastic solution partners, agency folks. And the conversation is very straightforward. It's delivering exceptional e-commerce experiences, which is a mouthful. But it's part of a continuing number of conversations that we've been having around the world regarding the challenges and opportunities that folks from the agency world are seeing in reality in the e-commerce space today. First and foremost, we're going to talk about some huge demographic changes that we see globally that presents both an opportunity and challenge for agencies and, of course, the merchant partners that they work with. Second, we're going to talk about mobile, the rise of mobile, the rise of smartphone, smartphone as a default context. We'll talk about, again, the opportunities and quite a few of the challenges that these folks see. And then finally, we're going to be talking about, as we're delivering exceptional e-commerce experiences, what does it really take to understand how end consumers, end merchants can deliver those experiences and being data-driven with those decisions. And so I'm going to get out of the way and introduce you to Caitlin, Hassan, and Brent. Give them a hand, we'll get to know them a little bit better. So Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, we missed my picture. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Something Digital?
Sure. I'm Caitlin Makita. I'm a strategic engagement manager at Something Digital, and we're a full-service agency right here in New York.
Nice. Hassan?
Hey guys, Hassan Alchemy, Senior Vice President at RedStage. We're an e-commerce agency with a focus on B2B. And I also sit on the board at Rutgers University and the chairman of some of our accelerated programs for the students that need it most, like us. So I bring some of what I do in my day-to-day into our curriculum at the university.
And I'm Brent Peterson. I'm with Magento Creative, and I'm a Magento evangelist, travel the world talking about Magento.
Excellent. I think my microphone got turned off. Is my mic on? It is. Good. Sorry. So, as we talked about at the outset, Caitlin, one of the key challenges that most folks see from a demographics perspective is the rise of millennials, and we have Gen Z, and then we have the aging folks, the baby boomers. Me, what am I?
You're a millennial.
Oh yeah, far from. Thank you, friend. That was great. No. So within that context of demographic changes, let's focus in for a second on millennials. Would love to understand, we have the rise of millennials. By 2020, I think the figure is that they'll be the biggest part of the workforce.
Right.
And so would love to understand, help us set the stage a little bit around how you and Something Digital approach that millennial market.
Yeah, so there's definitely a demographic shift we're seeing. It's really easy to kind of pinhole millennials. It's really easy to make them butt of jokes, and I know that because I am one. But the fact of the matter is, millennials represent a really wide age range and a variety of shoppers. So what we've really learned coming out of this initiative is that not the same experience works for everyone, and that you shouldn't make assumptions based on anything, but especially demographics. You should be focusing more on who your customer is in order to serve them better. And with the high conversion tool and the analysis we've been doing as part of this initiative, we've really empowered our merchants to not operate based on assumptions, but rather based on the feedback they're getting from their customers so that they can serve them better.
Sure, and Hassan, I know you do a lot of work in the B2B space. I think you call it B2B digital transformation. So we know a little bit about millennials. You can't shoehorn them. Can you talk us a little bit from a B2B perspective, what we should be thinking about when approaching millennials?
Sure. So I was, on the B2B merchant side for about just over 4 years. Manufacturing, distribution, wholesale. Company that's been around since 1890 and operating as if it's still the 1890s. Yeah. Just they went from horse and buggy to trucks. And problem was, we no e-commerce, nothing in place. It was quite a mess. And we're making money year over year, so why do we need to change? Everything's working. Customers are happy. We're getting things out there. But it wasn't a matter of, changing anything or getting rid of people. It was a matter of making them more efficient. Yeah. We're spending over 30% of our time on R&D. We're taking orders and calling it in to inside sales team, and it becomes very difficult. Yeah. Before I left, I attempted. I'm not a millennial, but I attempted to change what we were doing. We started the process of moving into the e-commerce space, and before I left, we had something in place. Problem was, we have thousands of customers. Yeah. All with different pricing. And there were all these different gray areas. If you're in manufacturing and distribution, there was something called a rebate, which has its own process as well and made it very difficult. To get back to the millennial side of it, they're not going to deal with this nonsense. They're entering the boardroom. They're the stakeholders now in a lot of different companies, and they're not going to deal with this. They want to get what they need quickly. They want it simple and easy, just like the B2C side of easeability and what we've done together as a team with high conversion. From a B2C standpoint, we made it simple and easy to get what you need, get out through the checkout process quickly.
Yeah, and so that transformation, that digital transformation, so is it coming from the B2C experiences that millennials, the people, expect, and now they expect that in the B2B context?
They expect it. They're expecting it now. It's just that they're coming into a position where they have no alliances or allegiances to anyone. Okay, my job coming in, I have to make this thing work. Millennials are starting to, enter not just the workplace. I mean, these are the guys, not just on the B2C side. It's on the B2B side where they got to get it when they need it quickly, and they don't want any BS in between.
Love it, love it. And now, Brent, I know that you are the father of millennials and do a lot of...
You outed me, thank you.
You give me a compliment and I throw that back at you. That was rude. But I know that you're the father of millennials and you do a lot of work globally. So help us set the context there. So are the same things that we're talking from a U.S. perspective the same when you're working globally? Or how does that demographic piece fit for y'all as you work globally?
I mean, part of this is definitely cultural. And in the U.S., we're taught to really question why are things this way. And I think as millennials now are moving into, like you said, more leadership positions, they're also saying, why are we doing it this way? So we're seeing in the B2B space more tablets, more things in the field that would happen not just at a desktop or not over the phone. Sure. They're pushing the envelope because they can, and it should happen that way.
And is there a U.S. piece of that versus a global piece, or is there a much difference when you're working globally for that demographic piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what country we're talking about. Maybe in Latin America there would be there's much more of a push for the mobile.
Sure.
But I think in many cultures there's much more of a hierarchy where there would be less opportunity for the millennials. Yep. I'm from Minnesota, so who am I to say whatever about India or Mexico? But there's definitely an upward push of technology and how technology fits in that, and I think that's a global thing.
Yeah.
I think the millennial piece of it is centered on, and I shouldn't even say that. The U.S. is a big push in it because we are questioning things all the time, and that's in our nature. Why are we doing it this way?
Gotcha. No, that's fascinating for me. And so the second piece of this that we talked about, again, we've been having these conversations globally. We hear it over and over and over again that mobile continues to outpace every other context. We all know that. We all use mobile phones all the time. But the challenge is that in a mobile landscape, the conversion rates for mobile lag significantly behind desktop. I think the number is 3.5% globally for desktop conversion rates, where conversion rates for mobile sit around 1%. So billions of dollars of potential revenue, billions of dollars of lost revenue. In that sort of context, Caitlin, help us understand from a something digital perspective, where does mobile fit in there, and what are some of the things that you and team are doing to hopefully close that gap?
Yeah, so design and user experience is really central to what we do at Something Digital. And as part of this mobile optimization initiative, we ran a lot of A/B tests in a lot of different scenarios with a lot of different merchants. And something really interesting we found was that something that works on desktop might not work on mobile, and it also might not work on tablet. And you have different people using different devices. What works well for one brand might not work well for another brand, depending on obviously who the customer is. So again, going back to my prior point, it's really dangerous to make assumptions about how anyone is using your product or how anyone is engaging with your brand. So by being more data-driven and listening to your customers and understanding how they're interacting with your brand, you can cater to them and make their overall experience better, which is really what we're trying to do at Something Digital and what we're trying to empower our merchants to do.
Awesome, that's fantastic. And Hassan, Caitlin, you're really good at that. I mean, you're like that. This is the best panel ever. Was that what this was? Hassan, as Caitlin mentioned, you guys are a part of, your firm is a part of an optimization initiative. PayPal obviously is a part of it as well, but can you help us understand, one, what that is, and maybe two, why RedStage is involved?
Sure. So, to your point, I mean, assume nothing. Absolutely. I don't want to go into too much detail of what we spoke about earlier.
Sure, yeah.
But simple things that we never would have thought, like putting an icon somewhere or moving things around or colors or whatever it may be, changed it beyond our expectation. And things that we thought would change everything, like the zip code, was a complete opposite. So we can't assume that something that we're used to or we think might make something better is going to work. Trust in the data, test, and that's the best way to really get anything out of it. We're actually, on the B2C side, we're using some of that to help make the B2B side even stronger. So from a B2B standpoint, we're working with merchants who are going into the B2C space for the data and analytics from the customer to make things better.
And so specifically around mobile, though, is that, are there other things that you're doing as a company to hopefully close that gap? I know we've heard data-driven a couple times, but.
Yep. From a B2B standpoint, we're working with a company now. It's, they have 4,000 agents in the field. Mobile wasn't a thing until recently. I mean, they're out there, they're speaking to customers, and payments was one thing, and also being able to have that experience very quickly, get what you need, move on, rather than jumping through hoops and calling someone inside sales. It was just making them more efficient. And all that data from that, I mean, it all goes into the system instead of having, you know, someone on the inside sales, IDA, taking the order, putting it through, all that time in between inefficiencies makes it very difficult. So we're empowering B2B from a mobile standpoint by arming their people in the field by bringing mobile into the space.
Awesome. And Brent, similar question for you. I don't want to harp too much on the initiative because we did talk about it earlier, and you were fantastic on that panel. Help me understand a little bit some of the things that Magento is doing, you know, to close that gap. Are you seeing, you know, and what are you seeing, again, maybe from a global lens with mobile and usage around mobile?
One thing we're doing is we're starting with mobile first, assuming that they don't even have a desktop. So maybe starting with the mobile phone and then a tablet, and assume that the end user, especially so somewhere like Bolivia, the smartphone market is something like 98%, and the desktop market is 50%. So people don't even have a regular computer. So if you want people to order from you, you're going to have to embrace the mobile device. And sometimes you're going to have to think about really small screens because some of them are going to be really old. So you have to deal with slow technology and slow loading pages or slow loading devices with 3G. So a lot of these things that we're used to, you have to sort of backwards think, make this as fast as you can without a lot of extra things.
In that context, I mean, the notion of the panel is delivering an exceptional e-commerce experience. It's really challenging in an environment like that. When you're thinking about a new engagement with an existing merchant, is it mobile first, mobile only, or is it, or how does mobile fit into a new engagement?
Yeah, we would think mobile first, and then build it out, and assume that people are going to be using desktop as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so we've heard a couple of times this notion of data-driven and being 100% data-driven when you're trying to figure out what sort of experience to deliver. From a something digital perspective, how does that data-driven component fit in, and how do you work maybe with a new engagement, and how does data fit into some of those decisions that you're making?
Totally. So, you know, we all talk about being data-driven. I think it's a real hot topic, and we hear it all the time. But I think it's kind of an intimidating topic for a lot of our merchants. They don't have a lot of extra bandwidth or manpower. They're very busy, these e-commerce directors. And they don't really want to dive into something brand new. And being data-driven seems like this whole new concept. But what we were really trying to do with Something Digital is fit being data-driven into, you know, what our merchants are already doing. They're already trying to innovate. They're already redesigning. They're already adding new features. So why not take that and make decisions off of what your customers are really doing and how they're engaging, test a couple creative ideas, and then put in place a way to measure the outcome and measure the success. So it's not a huge shift, but it's an important shift. And at the end of the day, it can, you know, bring about more efficiency because you're not investing in something that might not be working, and you can make better decisions off of real data that you're getting from your customers.
So data first without making it intimidating.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And same question for you, Hassan.
What was the question again?
You don't remember? So the question was, when you're thinking about a new engagement, when you're working either in the B2C or B2B space, how does being data-driven, what does that mean to RedStage, and how does that impact an engagement when you're working with a merchant that's...
That drives the conversation. It makes it easier to get the budget needed as well. Well, it's right here in black and white. It works, and this is why we need to do this. It's always difficult for a merchant to get the budget they need for something that the boss man just doesn't really understand or know, or if we're profitable, who cares? We don't need this. Let's put the budget towards something else. Let's do this ad or do that or spend it elsewhere. But the data helps drive that conversation forward. This is why we need to invest in this. This is why this is so important to our future. It's not a matter of nice to have anymore. It's you got to have it or you die.
And same for you, Brent?
What was the question? No, I'm joking. So I think the most, like from a designer standpoint, the lock on the little payment button, like from a designer, they're like, yeah, let's do this. But everybody else is like, it's not going to make a difference. Yeah. So how do you prove that, right? It's very subjective unless you can put the data behind it. And I think that, I don't remember what the percentage was, but it was a healthy percentage by putting a little padlock on.
17%.
Right.
Nearly 18%.
So then if you extrapolate that over your volume, and as the client gets busier, that is substantially a lot of money that's involved in that little, I feel like this is good. So if we get away from, I feel like this is good, let's prove why this is good, that's where the data really comes in. And for the client to see the bottom line, that this is what the increase is, that's really where it pays off.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have just, I think, Shannon, you said just 1 minute left, 2 minutes left, even better. So in the last couple of minutes, one takeaway. So we talked about the rise of millennials. We've talked about mobile, mobile first, mobile only. We've talked about being data-driven. If there's one thing for you through the rest of this year, one takeaway into next year, is there one that you can leave the audience with?
Yeah, my big takeaway about being data-driven is don't be scared. It's achievable. You can do it, and you can implement it, and you can scale it.
That's great. That's on.
Use the data to get the money. If you have a budget in place, and rather than it being allocated elsewhere, use that data. Here's why we got to spend it here. Give me that $1 million.
Brent?
Yeah, so mine would be thinking outside the box and using this new technology to help you improve.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. It takes a lot to get up on stage in front of your peers, so let's give these folks a hand. And thank you very much.